Look around at the people in the world today, and one of the first things you notice is the color of their skin. Some people are deep brown, some are pale, and there's every possible shade in between. We treat that difference as something huge, something that has divided people for all of history. It fills our history books, shapes our politics, and colors the way strangers size each other up in an instant. It feels like one of the most fundamental things there is about a human being. But here's something almost no one stops to think about. If you travel back far enough into the past, every single human being on Earth had the exact same color skin. Your ancestors, my ancestors, everyone's ancestors, all of them were the same. And the change from that first color to all the colors we see now is far more recent and far stranger than you would ever guess. So how did ancient humans go from dark to light? And why would our skin ever change color at all? The answer has almost nothing to do with what you probably think, because this is not really a story about people. It is a story about the sun. We tend to think of skin color as one of the deepest, most important things about a person. But to your body, your skin color is basically just one thing, a setting. Think of it like a built-in sunscreen dial, turned up or down depending on where your ancestors lived. And that dial was set by a hidden 2 million-year-long tug of war between two invisible forces. Two forces that both come from sunlight and that both want completely opposite things. Your exact shade of skin right now is simply the scoreboard showing which force won where your family is from. To understand it, we have to go all the way back to the very beginning, before humans even had skin you could see. Here is a fact that surprises almost everyone. Our distant ape ancestors did not have dark skin at all. Underneath their thick body hair, their skin was actually pale, much like a chimpanzee's skin is today under its fur. When you are covered head to toe in hair, the color of your skin barely matters because the sun can hardly reach it. But then, something happened that changed everything. Our ancestors began to lose their fur. And to understand why, you have to picture the world they lived in, the hot, open grasslands of ancient Africa. Out on those open plains, under a relentless sun, early humans were on the move, walking and running for miles to find food. All that activity in that heat created a serious problem. Their bodies were overheating. So evolution found a solution that almost no other large animal uses. We became sweaters. Animals that cool down by releasing water across bare skin. Most animals just pant to survive the heat, but we did something stranger. We covered our entire bodies in millions of tiny sweat glands. It turned us into an extraordinary cooling machine, able to keep moving under a midday sun that forced lions and leopards into the shade. But this brilliant cooling system only worked if the sweat could actually evaporate off bare skin, not soak uselessly into thick fur. But sweating works far better on bare skin than under a thick coat of fur. So over time, our ancestors shed most of their body hair, turning into the strange, nearly naked ape that we still are today. And that solved the overheating problem beautifully, but it instantly created a brand new one. For the first time, large areas of bare human skin were exposed directly to one of the most intense sunlights on the planet. And sunlight, for all the life it gives, carries something genuinely dangerous: ultraviolet radiation. This invisible part of sunlight can tear through skin and damage the delicate machinery of our cells. Bare, pale skin under the fierce African sun was suddenly a liability that could get you killed. So evolution went to work again, and this time it reached for a tool called melanin. Melanin is a dark pigment our bodies can make, and it works almost exactly like a sunscreen built into the skin. It gathers in the upper layers of the skin and physically soaks up the sun's harmful rays before they can reach the living cells underneath. The sunnier and more dangerous the environment, the more melanin a population needed, and the darker their skin naturally became. The more melanin you have, the darker your skin, and the more of that dangerous radiation it soaks up before it can do any harm. And so, over many generations baking under that equatorial sun, our ancestors evolved rich, dark, protective skin. For the vast majority of human history, every human on Earth was dark-skinned. Dark skin was not one option among many, it was simply what a healthy human looked like. Which leaves us with a genuine mystery. If dark skin was such a perfect, life-saving design, then why on Earth did any human ever become pale again? To answer that, we first need to understand just how important that dark skin really was. Most people assume the main danger of the sun is sunburn or skin cancer. And while those are real, they usually strike people later in life, often after they have already had children. From evolution's cold point of view, that is almost too late to matter. Evolution does not really care how long you live. It cares whether you can have healthy children. And this is where the sun's hidden danger becomes deadly serious. Strong ultraviolet light destroys a vital nutrient in our blood called folate. Folate is absolutely essential for building healthy babies, especially in the earliest weeks of pregnancy. It helps lay down the very foundations of a new body, including the developing spine and brain. When there is not enough of it, those foundations can fail to form properly, with devastating results. When folate runs too low, it can lead to serious birth defects and lost pregnancies. So a pale-skinned person living under the intense African sun would have struggled to raise healthy children at all. But a dark-skinned person, shielded by all that melanin, kept their folate safe and their children thrived. That is why dark skin spread and stayed. It directly protected the next generation. Across countless generations under that blazing sun, the best protected families simply had the most surviving children. Their well-shielded babies were the ones who lived to grow up and have children of their own. Little by little, rich, dark skin became the natural, healthy look of our entire species. It was one of the most elegant adaptations in our entire history, perfectly tuned to a world drenched in sunlight. It was so successful that, if nothing had changed, every human alive might still be dark-skinned today. But humans are restless, and we never stay in one place for long. And the moment our ancestors began to wander, the rules of the game were about to flip completely. Around 60 to 70,000 years ago, groups of humans did something extraordinary. They walked out of Africa and began to spread across the entire planet. They pushed north into the Middle East, into Europe, and across the vast lands of Asia. Some traveled so far that they ended up living under skies their dark-skinned ancestors had never once seen. They settled in lands of long, gray winters, where the sun could vanish for weeks behind the clouds. And in those cold and shadowy places, the rules their bodies had lived by for 2 million years quietly stopped working. And as they traveled further and further from the equator, the sun above them quietly changed. Near the equator, the sun beats down from almost directly overhead, fierce and constant all year round. But far to the north, the sun hangs low in the sky, weak and slanted, and for much of the year, it barely shows up at all. The further north they went, the less of that powerful ultraviolet light reached the ground. And here, in this dimmer world, something surprising happened. The perfect dark skin that had protected them for so long suddenly became a problem. To understand why, we have to meet the second invisible force in this story, because as dangerous as ultraviolet light can be, our bodies also desperately need a small amount of it. When sunlight touches our skin, it triggers our body to produce something vital, vitamin D. Vitamin D keeps our bones strong, our immune system working, and our bodies able to reproduce. It is one of the only vitamins our bodies can actually build themselves, but only when sunlight strikes our skin to spark the process. Take away the sunlight, and that vital supply quietly dries up. Without enough of it, bones grow soft and bent, children fall sick, and bodies begin to fail. And here is the cruel twist of dark skin in a land with little sun. The same melanin that blocks dangerous radiation also blocks the tiny bit of sunlight needed to make vitamin D. In sunny Africa, with light pouring down, that was no problem at all. there was more than enough to spare. But in the weak, slanted light of the far north, dark skin was now blocking sunlight that people could not afford to lose. People with dark skin in these cold, dim lands began to suffer from a lack of vitamin D. Through the long northern winters, the weak sun simply could not push enough light through all that protective melanin. A shortage in childhood could even soften and bend the growing bones, a disease that shadowed northern peoples for thousands of years. Their bones weakened, their health declined, and crucially, having healthy children became harder. And just like that, evolution faced the exact same problem from the opposite direction. So now we can finally see the full picture, the 2 million-year tug of war laid out clearly. On one side, too much ultraviolet light destroys folate and demands darker skin to survive. On the other side, too little ultraviolet light starves the body of vitamin D and demands lighter skin to survive. Your skin color is simply the compromise your ancestors' body struck between these two pressures. And the thing that decides that compromise is breathtakingly simple: how much sunlight falls on the place you live. In fact, if you lay a map of human skin color over a map of sunlight around the world, they line up almost perfectly. The closer a people lived to the equator, where the sun is strongest, the darker their skin became. The further toward the poles they lived, where the sun is weakest, the lighter their skin became. Skin color, it turns out, is essentially a map of sunlight written directly onto the human body. There is even one striking exception that proves the whole rule. The peoples of the far Arctic have darker skin than their freezing, sun-starved home would ever suggest. And the reason is beautiful. A traditional diet of fish and sea mammals gave them so much vitamin D that their skin never needed to lighten to chase the sun. So in the dim northern lands, generation after generation, natural selection slowly turned the melanin dial down. People whose skin let just a little more sunlight through made more vitamin D, stayed healthier, and had more surviving children. And so, over thousands of years, lighter skin slowly spread through the populations of the north. Pale skin was not better, and dark skin was not worse. Each was simply the right answer for a different amount of sun. Nature was not ranking people as superior or inferior. It was just fine-tuning a sunscreen to fit the local sky. The same dial turned to different settings for the same simple reason. They were two solutions to the very same problem, found by the very same species. But now comes the part of this story that genuinely shocks people. We tend to imagine that these skin colors are ancient, fixed thousands upon thousands of years ago. But the truth is that light skin, especially in Europe, is shockingly recent. Thanks to ancient DNA pulled from old bones, we can now actually read the skin color of people who lived long ago. And what those bones reveal is astonishing. The genes that set our skin color leave a clear signature, one we can now read directly from ancient bone. It is like having a faded photograph of people who died thousands of years before any camera existed. Some of the hunter-gatherers living in Europe just 10,000 years ago still had dark skin. In Britain, the remains of a man who lived around 10,000 years ago revealed dark skin paired with bright blue eyes. That combination feels almost impossible to us today, and yet it was simply how those ancient Europeans looked. The pale skin we now think of as typically European had not even fully arrived yet. So what finally pushed it to spread? A big part of the answer came with one of the largest changes in human history: farming. The early hunter-gatherers had eaten a lot of fish and wild game, foods naturally packed with vitamin D. Their diet was quietly topping up the vitamin D their dim northern sun could not provide. But as people switched to farming grains, that rich source of vitamin D in their food largely disappeared. Now they were getting little vitamin D from weak sunlight, and little from their new food either. The pressure to make every drop of sunlight count became more intense than ever. And so, in just the last several thousand years, lighter skin spread rapidly across farming Europe. On the vast timescale of human evolution, that is practically yesterday, the blink of an eye. The pale skin we treat as ancient and fixed is actually one of the newest things about us. But here is the final beautiful detail that ties it all together. Light skin did not evolve only once, in only one place. Far away in East Asia, people were also evolving lighter skin to cope with their own dimmer northern sun. But astonishingly, they did it using partly different genetic changes than Europeans did. Two distant groups of humans, facing the very same lack of sunlight, arrived at the very same answer by two completely separate routes. It is one of the clearest examples we have of evolution solving the same puzzle twice. And once you understand all of this, the way we usually think about skin color starts to fall apart. Because skin color, it turns out, is one of the most superficial features a human can have. It is controlled by just a handful of genes, doing one simple job: adjusting a pigment to match the local sunlight. It is, quite literally, skin deep. Two people with completely different skin colors can be more closely related than two people who share the same shade. The deep divisions we so often imagine between people simply are not written into our biology. Underneath, we are one of the most genetically similar species on the entire planet. Two chimpanzees from neighboring forests can carry more genetic difference between them than two humans from opposite sides of the Earth. Next to almost any other animal, we are practically identical, no matter what shade we happen to be. The colors on the surface are real, but they are recent, shallow, and endlessly rearranged by something as simple as the sky. So how did ancient humans go from dark to light? They did not, really. Not in the way the question suggests. There was no straight march from one color to another. Instead, a single dark-skinned species spread out across a world of wildly different skies. And everywhere they settled, their skin slowly bent to match the sunlight overhead. Where the sun was fierce, it kept their skin dark, guarding their children from the radiation. Where the sun was weak, it lightened their skin, helping them squeeze vitamin D from a faded sky. Both are the same story, the same species, solving the same problem in opposite directions. There is no master color, and there never was. There is only sunlight, and a species clever enough to bend to it. Every shade you have ever seen is just another page from the same ancient book, written by the same sun. And that means the color of your own skin is a kind of message, written long before you were born. It is a record of the sky your ancestors lived under, and the sunlight they fought to survive. Hidden in your color is the story of where your family once stood on this planet, and how much sun fell on them there. It is one of the oldest messages you will ever carry, and you wear it everywhere you go. If your skin is dark, it carries the memory of a fierce and generous sun. If your skin is pale, it carries the memory of a long search for light in a colder, dimmer world. But trace either of those stories back far enough, and they meet in the very same place: a small group of dark-skinned people standing together under the African sun, who are the ancestors of every single person alive today. So the next time you notice the color of someone's skin, or your own, remember what it really is. Not a line that divides us, but a sundial, quietly recording where each of our families once stood beneath the same sky. There is so much more to the strange, hidden story of how ancient humans came to be the way we are, how they survived, what they ate, why our bodies still carry the marks of their ancient world. If you want to keep uncovering how we really became human, this is the channel to do it. So subscribe, stick around, and I'll see you in the next one.